Hi everyone, I hope we're all doing really well. Today I want to talk to you about something very specific, but I'm like, if this interests me, I'm sure it's going to interest some other people, and this is why I do this, right? I'm just doing this for fun. I'm doing this, because I love it, and I just want to share this really specific question and answer it. So I'm going to be talking about how do I stay high vibe working in breaking news in the United States of America. I'm going to be covering that. So before we get into it, if you do want to subscribe, I talk about all things self-development. So if that sounds good to you, I would love to have you here. Let's get into it. So I started working in news at the beginning of 2018, before I had even graduated university yet. And I absolutely loved my first year. I completely transformed as a person. But if I can say one thing that really affected me, it was the news. Now, before I wasn't an avid news reader. It never was something that I really gravitated towards. What I love is telling stories, visually telling stories, and that really resonated for me. And I love Daily Mail and I love news, but as a consumer, it's something that I didn't consume. I just love telling stories, whether it's creatively curating a storyline and showing it visually, or literally visually storytelling what is happening right now in this world. It's still the same, it's a storyline, but at the same time, they're real things. And I was like, you know what? I didn't know that so many bad things happen in this world. I was very much in a bubble before, so I made so many friends in the industry, and I know literally the best journalists in Australia, in the UK, in the US. When I just starting out, and I was so shocked and confused that, like, oh my god, there is literally, I mean, it sounds very like childish and like I'm in a bubble, but genuinely, like, I was like, whoa, this is like 4 years ago, right? And so I was always asking reporters, like, how do you not get affected by the news? How are you so neutral about it, and you're just reporting neutrally? And even asking, like, do you get affected by this? Like, do you feel negative about always being constantly around negative news all of the time, like from 9 to 5? And what they said to me, I didn't understand at the time, but I began to understand it as I started working more and more over the years, and really understanding journalism and storytelling, something that, like, literally I just said that and I got butterflies. Like, I'm so super grateful to be in this industry. But what they said was, no, because I've desensitized myself to it. Right? Which can sound sad, but it's like, if you're in a field of work where it's like you're reporting on real issues, like, you need to have some form of desensitization, because if everything affects you negatively, you're not going to be able to, live and work in this world. You're not even going to be able to step outside the house, whether you're a reporter or you're just, a member of the public. Because it was my job, I would know every single thing, and I still do because it's still my job. But like, I knew everything that was happening in Australia in the news, and it would really affect me. And then I mastered the art of detachment, and everything just got so much better. So the way that I am still very high vibe while working in the breaking news industry, and this is probably obvious to a lot of people, but US is crazy news, like crazier than Australia or anywhere. Anything that I've seen, like, I just mastered the art of detachment. And when I read a story, in my head, I'm like, this isn't really real. Like, I know that it's real, but I'm sort of desensitized and detached from it. And it feels like I just have a wall up. And in a lot of cases, it feels like it's not real life, right? And I tell myself that, fully knowing that it is. And like, I have empathy for these people, like every story that I do. No matter how good you are at this, there are always going to be stories that pull on your heartstrings. Every single story pulls on every heartstring. From, like, reporters do get affected by this. I'm not saying they just turn off, like, narcissists, and they completely, don't feel anything. But when you're in the zone, you're really thinking about what happened, and the main thing is telling a story accurately and in the best order, and also finding the sell, which is like, what is the main point of this story. The journalist's job is to really concentrate into that and be as neutral as possible and not emotional. Like, we can't be emotional when we're reporting on stories, because that's going to affect the story, obviously. So, like, for example, the whole Ukraine invasion at the start of the year. I've been doing this for almost 5 years, but that really put me into like a really low state for a couple of weeks, and like not consistently. Like, I would try to detach, because for my own mental state and for everyone's mental state, and to bring like morale up in the office, I would kind of just be like, this isn't real, this is a movie sort of thing. Like, I genuinely feel for these people, but at the same time, I'm like, there are so many things that are happening on this world, and for me to be affected by everything, I'm gonna go insane. I can't give to others if I am constantly drained, you know, by these stories. And it's about recognizing that a lot of negative stuff happens, but the news doesn't report on mainly positive things. Don't get me wrong, we do report on positive stories, but this is one thing that gets me so angry to no end. The fact that all of these conspiracy theories saying that the news is just trying to make you go low vibe and trying to pull you down. The news doesn't give a shit about that. The news is reporting what is happening. We're not going to be reporting on girl buys a puppy. Do you know what I mean? Like, in uni, we were taught journalists are here for telling what is happening in the world to the member of the public, literally through all of life. We have always been storytellers. Cavemen literally were sitting around and communicating about stories, telling stories to others. It's exactly the same thing. People have the right to know about, you know, the world. And so when you respect that and you understand that, like, we talk about things that are just literally happening in this planet. Like, we're not going to report on fucking, like, kittens being birthed or, like, girl buys ice cream. News highlights the stuff that is going on in this earth that is something to write about. Does that make sense? It's not because it's negative that we're reporting on it. It's something to write about. Does that make sense? We're not going to be telling the world that fucking 6 puppies were born today in North Carolina. Like, does the entire world fucking care about that? No. Is it cute? Hell yeah. We're not going to be reporting about that though. Just switch your mindset that Instagram highlight reel. That doesn't mean that every single person is perfect. Same thing as the news. It doesn't mean that every single situation is negative, right? So I kind of started to desensitize myself and realize that my mental health and my high vibe is way more important. Prioritizing and focusing on the good is how I stay high vibe every single day, and just not focusing on the bad, no matter how much it is in your face. It's a job and it's my career and it's storytelling. It's why I was born, is to tell stories visually. So that's what I'm going to fucking do, and I'm going to provide that to the public. I hope that made sense. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below and I will be happy to answer. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. I'm heartbroken.